assistant professor in School of IT in IMS Noida. First I will teach you that what is the OSI reference model, which is basically the open system interconnection, and the layers of the OSI reference model. If you look at the OSI reference model in my PPT, then you will see that the last one, which is the physical layer. I will just explain the layer as well as the what are the functionalities of these layers. So physical layer, what exactly it does. Physical layer, say for example, if we want to send the message, okay, so in this case what exactly happen, we are writing a message on MS Word and we are just clicking on send button. So in this case generally we think, if we are not technocrats and we do not have any idea about the computer network, so in this case what exactly we think that whatever we are sending, it exactly going to the receiver and receiver is just receiving that message. Okay, but no, there is a lot of science that always works behind it. If we talk about the OSI reference model, OSI reference model is the model which is exactly not we are practically implementing when we are transmitting the data from one position to another position. It means we do have the source, we do have the destination, because when the data communication is happening, definitely, but obvious it should be happen between two devices and two machine, and one will be the sender and the other one will be the receiver. Okay, so when the sender is sending the message and receiver is receiving the message, who receives the message, there in medium there are lots of science which works. OSI reference model is known as an open system interconnection. That model is basically the set of rules and regulations, protocol, that how the message is going from one point to another point. But OSI reference model is not exactly that we are practically implementing when we are transmitting the data from one position to another position. So OSI reference model has a 7 layer. Okay, but yes, of course it is the base model, and when we want to do any research and development in especially in a computer network area, we always talk about that the OSI reference model, because what exactly we do, we always make the changes in the layer functionality and we want to see that what is happening in that. So this is the 7 layers, and if you look at the last one, that the physical layer, what exactly it does. Okay, if I'm just telling you the functionality of each and every layer, because as I told you earlier that it is the base model. Okay, so the base model, like the waterfall model in the software engineering, if you want to develop a software, so you always know that what exactly the waterfall model. So in the same manner you should know the OSI reference model. Okay, so the physical layer, what exactly it does, physical layer always manage all the networking equipments. When you want to send the data, as I told you that sender always responsible to send the data and receiver is responsible to receive a data. Okay, so in this case what exactly happened, there is some network equipment always required to send the data and to receive a data. There should be, it might be that if you are sending me a mail but I do not have some networking equipment, I do not have the internet connectivity, so in this case I cannot receive that data. So in both cases, the sender who is sending and the receiver who is receiving, they do have the some networking equipment. There is some prerequisite required that should be there. Okay, once that we are clicking on the sending button, the message is not going as a whole. What exactly happen, the message always segregated in a small parts. Generally we do have misconception that in physical layer that it we also say data packets. No, but we say it a bit stream. It converts the message in a small part, that in form of 0 and 1, which is the smallest unit of data, and that is known as the bit stream. After converting into the bit stream, what exactly happened? It forwarded the data bit stream to the data link layer. Data link layer, which is the responsible that how the congestion and flow control should be happen. Okay, it is responsible for the traffic control. The network should not be choked, and it is also responsible that how the sequencing and framing should be done, because when we are transmitting the data, it always happens that in which sequence the data packet should send. As I told you that your whole masses cannot send, because machine when try to interact, okay, so machine only understand the 0 and 1, which is the smallest unit of data. So your every masses always convert into 0 and 1. That's the first thing. And when your bit stream came into the data link layer, it is basically known as the data frame. Okay, data frame, we call it as a data frame. And data link layer is always responsible how the congestion control should be done, how the flow control should be done, and how the traffic control should be done. After this, the data link layer will, and it also do the sequencing, in which sequence the data frame should go. Okay, after that what will happen, the data link layer will forward the data frame to the network layer. Network layer is exactly responsible to establish the connection between two devices, you know, because when we want to do the communication between two devices to machine, they are the first requisite that there should be a connection between these two devices, then they can only exchange the data. So in this case, the network layer is responsible that it always establish the connection. In network layer, we call our data frame as a datagram and data packet. Usually we think that all are the data packets. Once it establishes the network, what exactly it does, it gives the data packet to the transport layer. Transport layer is basically, at the name you are seeing here, that the transport, which is responsible for the transportation services, it is carrying some services from the lower layer. If you look at in the Osi reference model here, the Osi reference model, there is a 7 layer. The top 3 layer, they always take the services, and lower 4 layer, they always give the services. And transport layer, what exactly it does, transport layer is responsible that how effectively it should take the services and to give the services to the top layer. So in this case, transport layer is responsible to send the message, error-free message, to the top layer. Got it? After that transport layer, we will talk about the session layer, which is responsible that in which mode the communication should be happen. I told you the mode of communication in my previous video, that the duplex, half duplex and simplex, as well as I taught you in my class that synchronous, asynchronous and asynchronous mode of communication, okay, in computer network. So the session layer is responsible that how the synchronization should be happen and how the session should be established, okay. And then we come to the presentation layer. Presentation layer is exactly, presentation layer, what exactly it does, presentation, the way you are representing the data. Say for example, if as a layman I am taking the example presentation that like if you're writing a Word document, you are representing your data in .doc. If you are making the PPT, you are representing your data in .pptx. So in which format you are representing your data, which is the work of the presentation layer. And the application layer, which is always responsible to end-to-end communication. Okay, so application layer, it means when you start to interacting with your system, and you always interact with application layer. So if I want to send a mail, so in this case, how the user will do? User first interact with application layer. The presentation layer work done by the user, because they represent the data in form of that in which format they want to send the data, and session layer, that how the synchronization should be happen. Got it? So this is the functionality of the Osi reference model. In my next video, I will try to tell you that what exactly the how you can make the comparison between the OSI and the TCP/IP reference model, because in the OSI and the TCP/IP model, the TCP is exactly the concise way, and TCP/IP model that we are practically implementing when we are transmitting the data between two devices. So this is, I hope that you got it, that what exactly the OSI reference model and what are the layers, what are the functionality. You should always remember that in each and every layer we don't call the data packets. Okay, when we fragmented our masses into small parts, you won't call it data packet. In each layer the name is different. As I told you, in physical layer we would call it bit stream, data link layer data frame, network datagram or data packet, transport layer data segment, session layer data unit, presentation layer PDU presentation data unit, and application. These are basically top 3 layer. They always take these services. So in this case it might be, but in the lower layers you should always remember the name because they always do the main functions. Okay, so this OSI reference model exactly we use for the research and development. We want to see that how we can make the changes in our layer, and then we can see the effect and we can implement in our theory. Okay, so that's why this is also known as a theoretical model. That's all for the today class. Thank you so much.